promoting our first film during this time that we were caring for our mum, but we were terrible at it basically, and so we would get really worked up before we would get on the phone to do these interviews with, you know, American radio or whatever it was. And so that idea of not being able to find your voice, you know, to talk about your creativity and stuff like that as well, parallel to, you know, someone who's actually losing their voice, felt like a, you know, again, a good starting point for a film.
I mean, the first one that comes to mind for me is that it's an American movie called The Savages, directed by Tamara Jenkins. I mean, it was an influence in so many ways, but
Photographically, it kind of was an influence. I mean, the subject matter was close. The way, the bittersweetness of that film, tonally, the way there was able to move between comedy and some sadness and melancholia. And
it's also a story that I think takes a clear-eyed view of aging and like middle-aged adult children having to step into the roles of being carers and the complexity around that. And also, it's really funny.
And we showed it to the DP as well, just in terms of the photographically, the tone of that film, in terms of they shot it in beautiful 16mm. I think they shot it in 16mm film. So we couldn't afford film, but we would have referenced it to a certain degree in terms of the grain structure and just the feeling, that sort of beautiful feeling of the film being alive and stuff in terms of the colour time.
And also, I'd say the production design, like, you know, the homes that they live in, the care homes that they visit, like feel very kind of lived in, and like lots of really rich detail that's in there that very much helps to tell the story.
We wanted everything about the film, the detail of the film to feel nuanced and specific, and that film built that really, really effectively. And so we wanted everything to feel lived in, and, you know, the comedy not to feel elevated or harsh, even though it was quite absurd. We wanted it to feel almost like we were making a documentary, so we would talk to the actors about keeping everything really, really grounded, and not to try to lean into the comedy. It's just, you know, the more we treated everything in a very real way, the more absurd it would be and the funnier it would be. Sort of parallel to that, we also talked about, like, you know, this really love, you know, 80s high concept comedies, you know, where unlikely characters are forced into a situation where they have to be together and stuff like that. So there's you know, just a ton of like old Goldie Hawn movies and, you know, 80s comedies that we kind of, and we need to revisit them. They're always sort of percolating somewhere around in our heads. So they were there. Nebraska and Sideways, Alexander Payne, we love his films, sort of deadpan comedy. That stuff is always kind of bubbling around.